So, to anybody thinking about joining the Navy, I'll offer my 2 cents. I was a nuclear surface warfare officer, so I did a tour out of Rota, Spain on a destroyer, and that was about 2 years. And then I went to nuclear power school, learned how to operate the Navy's nuclear reactors. That was about a year. And then I went to an aircraft carrier based out of Japan to do my tour as a nuclear engineer. Uh, I will say this. If you go into the surface Navy and you go forward deployed, meaning stationed overseas, you'll probably spend about half of your time at sea. That's what I did. Uh, During that time on a destroyer, which many people will call a small boy, a smaller vessel, uh, we did a lot of freedom of navigation exercises. So we would drive into areas where other countries might say we weren't allowed, but that international law said we were allowed. We spent a lot of time training, doing drills, um, and doing exercises with other allied navies. It was enjoyable in terms of the mission. The work was like running a marathon. You stand between 6 and 8 hours of watch each day, which for an officer that means you are helping to navigate and drive the ship. And then beyond that, you also have your job as a division officer. So you're responsible for your sailors that you're entrusted to lead, and you could have any kind of job. My job was in combat electronics, so I helped lead the sailors who were in charge of fixing the radars, the internal, external communication systems, the computer equipment, the miniature and micro miniature repair program, and a couple of other duties. So when something would break, as a division officer, your job is to make sure that that thing gets fixed. So you provide the resources necessary so that your technicians can fix that thing. That's kind of the grind as a division officer. Is you're doing admin to fix your equipment, and then you're also doing admin for your guys. That is like yearly evaluations for your sailors. Writing them awards. Helping to select people appropriately for different leadership positions within your division. So it's a unique opportunity. But as you might imagine, between standing watch and leading the division, there's not a whole lot of time to do anything besides work and stand watch and then sleep when you can. Because on top of that, the ship also runs drills pretty much around the clock. You're doing, periodic general quarters drills, where you're going to be in charge of firefighting efforts. So you're mimicking firefighting efforts. And then we run engineering drills. So, what do you do if the ship loses a certain type of equipment? And they run navigation drills, all kinds of different types of drills. Basically, try to keep the ship as combat ready as possible at any given time. So that's the kind of conventionally powered surface ship experience in a nutshell. And then nuclear power school, they say it's the most difficult school in the country. That's not true. Every class we might have one person fail out. It's really not that hard. If you can get through any undergraduate college program, you can get through nuclear power school. All it requires is a certain level of stick-to-itness. Really, you're not learning engineering, you're memorizing things. So you're memorizing systems, you're memorizing diagrams, and you're memorizing procedures. Because as a nuclear officer, your job is to follow procedures. You don't have to understand how to design a nuclear reactor. You need to understand the basic principles of how nuclear fission works, and how we keep the core cool, and what systems are required in order to do that. But fundamentally, you just need to understand the systems, like functionally, and the procedures that we have to protect those systems. So that's nuclear power school. You learn how to do that. Maybe during nuclear power school, on average, every student is probably studying 50 to 60 hours a week. So not bad. As opposed to life on a ship, where you've got duty, typically between once every 4 days and once every 6 days, somewhere in that range, depending on how well manned your ship is. And what is duty, you ask? Well, that means you can't leave the ship for 24 hours. So, what do you do while you're there? Well, you stand a watch for about 5 of those 24 hours. And then the rest, you take care of your own paperwork, or you just sleep and watch movies, or you study for your next qualification. So that watch that you stand, that 5-hour watch, for a junior officer typically is called officer of the deck. So you stand at the entry point to the ship, which is called the brow, and you have a petty officer working for you, and you also have a messenger of the watch, which is a more junior sailor who their job is to relay messages. And you just make sure that everybody who comes onto the ship is supposed to be there. So it's a certain level of like anti-terrorism protection. From an anti-terrorism perspective, you, as an officer deck, you're answering to the anti-terrorism tactical watch officer, which is another qualification that you can get if you're so interested. In my opinion, the ATWO, as it's called, is an easier watch than the officer of the deck, because you don't have to stand there with a bulletproof vest and a weapon, for 5 hours. You are permitted to roam the ship as needed, with a radio on you. So that's duty. Duty's no fun, especially when you have it on the weekend, because think about it this way. You're working, 10 to 12 hour days, Monday through Friday, and then you've got duty Saturday, so that's 24 hours. And maybe on duty you have the mid-watch, so you stay and watch at night. So now you're sleep deprived. And then you get to go home on Sunday, but now you're tired, so you can't really do much unless you're a maniac like me. So then you sleep half the day on Sunday, and then, you're back at it Monday morning. And that's while the ship is in port. Now you're underway for half the time. So, if you join the Navy, be prepared to work. It's not going to be easy. If it is easy, then you're probably terrible at your job. So, just saying that. All right. And then, okay, life as a nuclear officer. I would say this: don't be a nuke if you aren't really interested in nuclear power, because that is your life as a nuke. Your watch, once you qualify, is to be in charge of supervising the operation of the nuclear reactor, which when the ship is underway, it's pretty easy. It's not hard. I mean, you're doing the occasional maintenance item, but by and large, you're just supervising the reactor to make sure that it stays, within the operating bands that we are allotted for that particular reactor. In port, however, it's a lot more arduous, especially when the ship is in a maintenance evolution, because there are these things called work controls, and that is safety measures, so that whenever somebody does maintenance on any type of equipment, nobody gets hurt. So you make sure that the appropriate mechanical and electrical systems are tagged out. That is, tagged, caution, like you literally put a tag on the either breaker or the valve, to make sure that no electrical power and no fluid is going into the area where the guys are working on. So I would stand. We were in 5-section most of the time. You go into 3-section or 4-section during leave periods, so that some of the crew can take time off. But during that duty day, I was typically awake, physically working, maybe 18 hours out of those 24 hours. And when you're working, you're in this control room. It kind of looks like The Simpsons. And you're just doing work controls. You're signing off stuff. You're making sure everybody's doing stuff safely. You're getting authorization from higher level authority if needed. If it's going to take out some, propulsion limiting or, something that would take out the ship's ability to get out to sea, you've got to get appropriate authorization. Make sure that the division officer who routed that paperwork got appropriate supervision. So that's the watchstanding piece of being a nuke. And then there's the division officer piece. Being a divo of nukes is not hard, because nukes, when I say nuke, I mean like a nuclear trained sailor. They're really, really smart. So they don't need a whole lot of micromanaging. You tell a nuclear sailor, to do something and he goes off and he does it, and you don't need to follow up typically, because they're smart and they're motivated. I mean, that's why they got selected to be a nuclear sailor. These guys have been through relatively arduous schooling, and in that sense, you can trust them to do a damn good job, and that's cool. So I really enjoyed being a division officer of the nuclear sailors. So there's life, kind of, real quick overview of life as a surface warfare officer and then a nuclear surface warfare officer on an aircraft carrier. Like I say, don't do it if you are not prepared to work a lot, because you will work a lot. But the people that you meet are amazing. The people that you're entrusted to lead are truly incredible Americans, and I wouldn't change anything. If I had known how difficult it was going to be, I don't think I would have done it, but I'm glad I did it. I wouldn't be who I am today if I hadn't done it. All right, thanks for watching.